Hello and welcome to Valencia's Ricardo Tormo circuit for this third round of the Spanish Formula 4 season. My name's Idawood and I'll be commentating on the second race of the weekend this morning. We're seeing the cars head out to the grid. Some actually have done a bit of like an installation lap. They're going back through the pit lane and then they'll be making their way to their grid spots. We've got 27 cars out on track today. This is the 8th race of the season, the second race of the weekend here, and it's an 18-minute race. So we have two different length races in this championship, a 25-minute race and an 18-minute race, and this one will be awarding slightly less points because of its shortened duration. The grid was based off the second best lap times from the FedEx qualifying session yesterday. After much deliberation in the stewards room, we finally got a grid issued out. There's been a few penalties and a few deleted lap times, but it is Nicolas Solov, the Campos Racing driver and our championship leader, who is starting on pole position. Gael Julien alongside him for Drive at School. Manuel Espirito Santo, another of the Campos Racing drivers, and Filip Jenic completing the second row of the grid. Timoteusz Kucharczyk in 5th place, Kirill Smal in 6th, George Kelstrap in 7th, Suleiman Zanfari in 8th, Max Meyer in 9th, and he is the first of our penalised drivers, and Hugh Barter rounding out the top 10. We're looking now at the grid. So before the race actually starts, all of the teams are allowed to bring key personnel and sometimes VIPs as well onto the grid to essentially, make sure you've got the correct tyres fitted, you've got your front left tyre on the front left of the car, that kind of thing, checking the pressures, making sure the drivers are in the right headspace for the race, keeping them cool as well. And more than that, just making sure everything is ready, because you only have 3 chances per weekend to score points. And it's very important that you get absolutely everything right before you head out to the grid, because if there's one little thing wrong, if the car hasn't been checked, double, triple checked, and something breaks, then you're really going to be ruining not spending that extra few seconds beforehand just checking everything on the Tatuus T421. And as we can see, there's several of them on the grid already. This is a new car introduced this year. It's got the Halo cockpit protection device, which was first introduced in Formula 1, and a strengthened safety cell structure. So really a big improvement on the predecessor. And more than that, it's just increased the interest in the Spanish Formula 4 Championship. Huge grid this weekend, huge grid in the previous 2 rounds. We've had close to 30 drivers taking part. In fact, we've had 32 drivers taking part now. Daniel Macha has returned to the series this weekend. Nicolas Solov leads the way by quite a handy margin over Timoteusz Kucharczyk. Hugh Barter in 3rd place, Tassanapol Infrapuzak in 4th, and Suleiman Zanfari rounds out the top 5 in the standings. We've got Han Cook supplying the tyres for this series as well. Formula 4 drivers really can wrestle the car. They can do a lot of side-by-side action, and at this Valencia circuit, this 4-kilometer anti-clockwise layout, there are a few overtaking opportunities. It's quite hard to pass, but also a lot of areas where you can tuck in behind a driver and almost pressure them into a mistake to then set up an overtaking opportunity later on the lap. The most popular place to overtake is the final corner. It's a downhill left-hander, and it really kind of opens up and as it heads onto the pit straight. So a great place for drivers to kind of test those ahead of them to see if they can get by. We're looking now at the front few rows. Nicolas Solov with the number 1 board actually in front of where he's parked up. That usually appears just before the drivers go onto the podium, so maybe he needed reminding where he needs to park. He's taken pole several times already this season. He's had a really successful campaign in his rookie year in single-seaters. Took 2 poles at Algarve, that was round 1 of the championship in Portugal, took all 3 poles at Jerez and did so by half a second in each of the qualifying sessions. Then in yesterday's qualifying session, he was again half a second faster than anyone else, took pole for races 1 and 2 of the weekend, and this morning, quite an entertaining qualifying session with lots of swapping of the order. Hugh Barter pipped Solov to race 3 pole for later in the day by 0.017 seconds. This is Gael Julien, second on the grid. The Drive at School driver did really well yesterday, challenged Solov early on, chased him, then slightly lost a bit of ground later on and took a bit more risk as he did so to try and regain the lost time. But what ended up happening was he exceeded the track limits a few too many times and ended up being penalised at the very end of the race by 2 seconds. Manuel Espirito Santo, 3rd place, Portuguese driver, another who very almost was at the back of the grid. He had his fastest lap deleted in qualifying, and only at the very end did he then set another lap that brought him back up the order. So he got quite lucky there. He's a new driver for Campos this weekend. He switched teams. substituting for the injured Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. Filip Jenic in 4th place, another driver who was at a different team last year. He's moved across to Campos, tasted great success. He was actually only 7th fastest in qualifying, but with this race 2 grid being set off the second best times, Jenic is further up the order, so he was more consistent with his lap times in qualifying. And of course, it's very hard to get multiple flying laps in clean air because of how many cars there are here. Timothej Kaharczyk, the MP Motorsport driver. MP Motorsport and Campos Racing both have more than 4 cars. The Spanish Formula 4 Championship this year has introduced a limit on how many cars you can enter, 4 cars per team. So we're splitting each of these teams into 2 licenses. Campos has Solov, Jenic, Kelstrup and Hugh Barter as the Campos Racing entity. Then Espirito Santo will be scoring points for Campos, full stop. Here's a reminder of the front 3 rows of grid. Solov 1 minute 34.7, the only driver to lap in the 1 minute 34s in the race and in qualifying. There's our second page. You see Max Meyer has that yellow highlight around his number. He is one of the rookie classification entrants. We'll be seeing that through the race on our live timing updates. What are the positions of our rookie drivers in addition to the overall order? A few more penalties applied further down, and I'm going to give you a quick reminder of who are the drivers who had lap times deleted due to track limits. Cars number, you ready for this? 1, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 14, 19, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, 33, 44, 51, 52, 55, 68, and 77. I think that's the majority of the grid. That's quite a lot of cars. And we do have 8 drivers, competing for rookie classification honours. We did have Matteo De Palo entered with GRS in free practice, although he didn't set a lap and he would have been a rookie classification driver had he driven race Ken. There's the timer on the board, 18 minutes, and there is actually a GRS car in the pits. So about to start the formation lap. I'm going to see who that may be. We've got Vladislav Ryabov and Ricardo Gracia racing for GRS this weekend. They should be, I believe, in 18th and 23rd on the grids respectively. That looks like it may be Gracia. Now, Sebastian Gravland was supposed to be starting at the back of the grid because he caused a red flag in qualifying and actually had his best lap times deleted as well, so he didn't have a lap to essentially qualify him for this race. And we can see him at the back there behind the Teo Martin Motorsport driver Daniel Macha. That does look like it could be Ricardo Gracia in the pit lane. Great shame if he's unable to start this race. Hopefully he's able to get going. Solov leads the field around. I'll quickly run down through the grid. We've got Solov and Gail Julian on the front row. Manuel Espirito Santo and Filip Jenic on row 2, both Campos drivers. Timothej Kaharczyk in 5th, Kirill Smal in 6th. George Kelstrup, Suleiman Zamfari, Max Meyer and Hugh Barter complete the top 10. And there's going to be some really close battles further down, and that is Ricardo Gracia. We've got that confirmed now. He's going to be starting this race from the pits. From the 6th row downwards is Valerio Renicella, Tassana Pollin for Puvzak, Alvaro Garcia, Bruno Del Pino, Robert Dehaan, Christian Ho, Myron Pingasov, Vladislav Ryabov, Maxim Markangelski, Ricardo Escotto, and then from the outside of the top 20, you've got Jeff McHills, Daniel Nogales, and I imagine there'll be a gap where Gracia would have started. Then Lola Lovinfos alone on that 12th row grid. Then Anshel Gandhi, Daniel Macha, and Sebastian Gravland. In yesterday's race, a quick reminder, Nicholas Solov led lights to flag for his 4th win of the season. It was Manuel Espirito Santo who ended up in 2nd place after the 2-second penalty was applied to Gail Julian. Timothej Kaharczyk finished 3rd. In 4th place was Julian. 5th was Jenic, then Zamfari, Smal, Infra Robert Dehaan, and it was Valerio Renicella who was the final point scorer in our 25-minute race yesterday. In the 18-minute encounter we're just about to embark on, the points are only going to be delivered to the top 8 rather than the top 10, and it goes on a 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1 basis for those top 8 finishes. And there's another point for the fastest lap of the race. It's going to be very interesting actually to see who sets that fastest lap, because in yesterday's race we saw the drivers with the clean air tended to actually get a better lap time, but they do need to look after their tyres because there's going to be a lot of squabbling front rows have already lined up on the grid. There's Sebastian Gravland at the back, I think. It's going to take him a while to get there, so everything is going to cool down for these front guys, and they're going to be just sitting there waiting a long time. It's going to feel like a very long time before our back drivers come to their grid spots, Daniel Matcher and Sebastian Gravland. There's the weather, 21 degrees air temperature, 39 degrees track temperature. That's over 14 degrees higher than it was yesterday. Big gap, 5-second board. Lights are on and lights are out. Solov gets a pretty good start, leads away. It looks like there's a stall for Timoteusz Kucharczyk, so he's dropped down the order. Gael Julien slots into second place ahead of the two Campos cars, Espirito Santo and Filip Jenic. Filip Gracier's not going to start until everyone's gone by, and it looks like Timoteusz has now got going, so that's a good job for him. Solov leads the way, Gael Julien in second. We've got Espirito Santo Jenic. Kirill Smal jumps up to fifth in the MP Motorsport car. George Kelstrup, we see a lot of drivers going a bit wide there. Track limits will be monitored very closely by race control through this race. We've had several incidents. You can see there, drivers going wide, returning to the track, and it's getting a bit messy already. Pretty clean first lap in regards to any drivers getting too close to each other, though. We had an incident yesterday where two Campos teammates actually collided, so it's very good that everyone's almost avoided each other. One of the MP cars has gone very, very wide. They're going to return to track after losing about 8 places. In fact, they're going to return at the very back of the order. Probably got a lot of dust on their tyres. Now into the braking zone for the second hairpin of the lap. Everyone gets through cleanly again, but a lot of use of the curves and more. Here's a replay at the start. So our top 4 get away cleanly, but Timoteusz Kucharczyk, I think that was, dropped back significantly because of a very slow start. The two Teo Martin cars got very feisty at the back, fighting each other. Solov clear though, and he's actually built a tiny bit of more of a margin ahead of Gael Julien as they come down to this downhill left-hander. So 7 tenths ahead of the Frenchman through that final corner. That's the place to watch for overtakes in this race. It's really where you can set it up on the long curved left-hander prior to that. So after 1 lap, we've got 0.658 seconds between our top 2. There's number 77, Riccardo Escotto. He's had a spin somewhere, and there's a move. I think that's for 7th place. We've got 2 cars side by side down the pit straight. Kirill Smal, Zunavan Zanfari heads. I think that was between Kelstrup and Barta, or either Barta and Max Meyer. We'll see if the timing screen updates. There's been no change of position there, so the order stays as it is. And then for Pruvazak has got past Robert Hahn though for 10th place, the final points position. As we can see, the rookie classification, Nicolas Solov leads the way. Max Meyer is second of the rookies in 9th, and then Bruno Del Pino holding off Alvaro Garcia for 13th overall, and the final podium spot in the rookie classification. 2 MP cars getting side by side almost there at the exit of the corner. That's in for Pruvazak, and it looks like Valerio Rinicella, because Robert Hahn had already got back past in for Pruvazak. The number 24 being wheeled into the pits, that is Myron Pingasov. He's not had a good weekend so far. Has had a lot of pace, but the car's just not been to his liking, and obviously he's now retired from this race. Going into the garage, DriveX car overtakes another of the MPs. I think that's Del Pino on Rinicella. That would be for 12th place. So he is the third of our rig classification drivers, and now one of the Monlau Motorsport cars is coming at the MP as well. So we've got a lot of fighting in the final sector of the lap. This is the very long curved left-hander that takes you down to the final corner. Hard to overtake prior to that, but you can then set up a pass into the final corner and then onto the pit straight. 2 laps completed now. Nicolas Solov has a handy little margin, 9 tenths ahead of Gael Julien, 1.6 seconds to Espirito Santo. We've got even more squabbling in the back. Teo Martin car almost onto the grass. That is several cars fighting together as well, way down outside of the points, but every position matters in this championship. Drivers really go in for any gain they can, essentially. 9-tenth margin now between Solov and Gael Julien. Just looking at an update at the timing screen, Vladislav Rybov was overtaken by Timoteusz Kucharczyk. He's now back up to 18th place, so he's recovered, but he's obviously got about another 10 or 12 places to regain if he wants to get back to where he had started. Daniel Matcher up to 20th from the back row of the grid. Escotto has got going again. He's 4 seconds behind Riccardo Gracia in 25th, but he's still in contention this race after his spin that we saw earlier. Sebastian Gravland, another of the drivers who started at the back, he's in 24th. Quick rundown through those rookie classification drivers: Solov, Meyer, Del Pino, Alvaro Garcia, Timotej Kaharczyk, Daniel Nogales, Sebastian Gravland, and Ricardo Gracha. Solov taking a bit of curb there for the chicane section, coming down through these final two corners. A lot of elevation on this track. It's 4 kilometers long, but you've also got about 50 or so meters of just going up and down as well in pure altitude change. Solov goes to complete lap 3 of this race. He's now 0.933 seconds ahead of Gael Julian, and Julian was actually 0.002 seconds faster than Solov on that last lap, and reclaims the fastest lap of the race. But there's still a margin between those two, so no overtakes. Espirito Santo and Filip Jenic running in 3rd and 4th. We saw a reminder from race control there about track limits, and that is the only reminder we've had. Often you do see drivers individually being warned, but this is just a general reminder to all drivers, just like in the Le Mans 24 hours yesterday, where they said the race is for the whole 24 hours rather than just turn 1. You need to remember for these drivers that if you do exceed track limits, you may be gaining advantage at the time, but the stewards will come down on you and penalise you, normally either 2 seconds or 5 seconds once you've committed multiple infractions. And that is a 1.159 second lead for Solov now, so he's broken the 1 second barrier up front. He's on course for his 2nd win in a row of this weekend, but it will be his 4th win in a row in the Spanish Formula 4 Championship, because he won races 2 and 3 at Jerez. Goes very wide there. That's not a mistake. A lot of the drivers, if you see, actually choose that to be their racing line, but with all the tyre marks there as well, you can see in other racing series we've had at this racing weekend here at Valencia that it doesn't always go right when you go over the curbs. The back end can get unsettled, and then if you keep on the throttle, if you've come off the throttle and then you apply it again, the rear will just spin out behind you, and then you've lost multiple places and there was no point running over the curbs in the first place. Coming down to the final corner, Solov completes the 4th lap of the race now, 1.3 seconds clear of Gael Julian. He breaks into the 1 minute 34s already, a 1 minute 34.840. That is his lap time. It's his fastest lap. Car number 10, that's Lola Lovenfoss, under investigation for working on the car after the 1 minute signal. Obviously, she's not under investigation herself, but her crew are. That would have been on the grid. So the teams are normally told you have 1 minute and then you have 30 seconds, etc., to essentially stop working on the car, run off the grid because the race needs to get started. And if you have broken that rule, normally they apply a fine unless you've actually changed the car considerably after that warning. Drivers and team members normally get quite a bit of practice of making sure they hear that. Normally it's an alarm ringing from the pit lane to tell them that they need to head back. Solov 1.6 seconds clear now. We're looking at the midfield battles. 2 Teo Martin Motorsport cars further down the order. So that is Lovenfoss and Nogales in 22nd and 23rd, chasing Angel Gandhi. Looking now at 2 of the Campos entries as well. So gaps already opening up. There's Kirill Smal in the darker red MP car. Then he's being followed by Zamfari, Kelstrup and Hugh Barter. Barter's really going to want to be making up positions. He's already gained 2, but he's fighting for the title this season. He's doing French Formula 4 as well. He was 2nd in that championship last year, and now he's at the front this year, and he's really aiming for the double F4 crown, as is Alex Dunn, who's doing the Italian and British championships. I think we'll see a few other drivers as well. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, for example, who's doing the Italian and the ADAC series. 5th lap completed, 1.9 seconds now between our top 2 drivers. Solov, did he set the fastest lap? Well, his best lap's still a 1 minute 34.8. We're seeing an overtake here between the GRS cars. I think that's Vladislav Ryabov and one of the DriveX entries, Max Arkangelski. He gets the move done, so that'll be for 19th place. But he's going to have to get defensive into turn 3 because he's coming back at him. Arkangelski does want to climb back up the order. He had a good season last year. He really wants to score more points because he hasn't got too many on the board so far in the first 7 races of this season. Follow this battle all the way to the end of the lap, and just ahead of them, 2 spots ahead of them, is Timotej Kaharczyk. So he's in 16th place, did start significantly further up the order, made a very slow start off the line and dropped all the way back. He's now recovered, I think, 4 places from his initial drop of position, so he's doing a good job trying to get overtakes done where he can. Solov using all of the road and more, 2.3 seconds ahead now, so he's extending that advantage. The 2nd fastest man on track is Filip Jenic. We saw this yesterday as well. He's in 4th place, getting onto the rear of his Campos teammate Manuel Espirito Santo. When he has clear air, he's very, very quick, and he's now on the rear of his teammate though, so that's inevitably going to lose him some time, and also it's going to heat up the tyres as well. Because this is a shorter race, it's 18 minutes long, and we've got 8.5 minutes to go plus 1 lap. Tyre management isn't as much of a concern as it is in the 25-minute race, but as we saw at the very start of this race, the track temperature is incredibly high, over 30 degrees. Compared to what it was in yesterday's race, so it's going to be a big challenge. 6 laps in the books now, 2.4 seconds between Solov and Julian at the front, 1 minute 34.662 for Solov, so that's the new fastest lap of the race. Warning flag for track limits to cars 28, 7 and 8, so that's Timotej Kaharchik, Alvaro Garcia and car 28, I think it's further down the order, that's Daniel Matcher, so they're fighting in the kind of the 15th to 18th place battle. There's the DriveX crew on the pit wall. They've got several cars in this race, but within the limit of 4 per team, whereas Campos and MP Motorsport have to split their cars into 2 different licenses. Doesn't impact the driver's own point scoring, but when it comes to the team's championship, depending on who they're entered for, they score points for either that entity or the second entity. So in MP Motorsport's case, it's MP Motorsport or MP Motorsports, and for Campos' case, it's Campos Racing and Campos. We've got our first penalty of the race, 2 seconds for car 28, that's Daniel Matcher, down in 18th place, so that'll drop him outside of the top 20, I think. Matcher, returning to the championship this weekend, he raced in Spanish Formula 4 last year, came 5th in the standings, did a very good job in what was his rookie season in single-seaters, but he's returned to karting this year, had won his way into the championship with a free seat, but didn't quite go to plan. He actually delayed his entry into this series by a year, then made the most of it last year, then couldn't get a seat in the series again for 2022 full-time, but hopefully after this weekend we'll see him again racing in Spanish Formula 4. 7 laps completed, Solov 3.2 seconds clear now, another improvement, 1 minute 34.615, and the second fastest driver on track now is Espirito Santo. So it looks like the 2 Campos entries, Santo and Janic, and we saw Hugh Barter there putting a wheel into the gravel. He's in 8th place chasing his teammate George Kalstrup. It looks like the Campos cars are the fastest right now. They're closing in on the MP Motorsport cars ahead in the case of this fight between 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, and then with Espirito Santo and Janic in 3rd and 4th, they're chasing down DriveIt School's Gael Julien for 2nd place. Looking at the gap there between 6th and 7th, Zamfaria and Kalstrup, it's got slightly larger and then it's got smaller 2 times as well. Our lead driver Solov, he is one of several drivers in this series that's part of like a management scheme for young drivers. In this case he's part of A14, which looks after Formula 2 driver Clement Novalak as well, and Peruvian karter Andrea Cardenas. And that company is set up by Fernando Alonso, who's racing in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this weekend for Alpine. And in addition to that, Alonso was involved in Solov's karting career as well. He was an FA Racing karter during his time in OK Karts, and he's also an Alpine Academy affiliate. So lots of connections there to Fernando Alonso. We've had another time penalty come in, 2 seconds for car number 7. Another of the drivers that's outside the point, so it's not going to impact the battle up front. That's Timotej Kaharchik, so his recovery drive has been squandered somewhat by that. 8 laps done, 4.1 second margin now between Solov and Julian. I did mention earlier that tyre management might be something drivers need to think about, but Solov is actually getting faster with every single lap. He's just set a 1 minute 34.416, which is half a second faster than Gael Julien, so he's really, you know, opening up the gap to 2nd place at the moment. Espirito Santo's only a further 6/10 behind in 3rd, so I do expect these 2 Campos cars to chase down Gael Julien, put pressure on him by the end of this race. We've got 4 minutes and 12 seconds to go, plus 1 lap, so the drivers will run until the clock goes down to 0, and then when they complete the lap after that, they then do another lap, and that is when the checker flag is waved at the end of that one. Warning flag, track limits for car number 35, and I'm going to look down the timing screen. Who's that for? That's Sebastian Gravland down in 24th place. He had to start at the back of the grid because he caused a red flag in qualifying, and therefore didn't actually have a lap time to qualify him for this race. Despite his 2-second penalty, Timoteusz Khajic has moved up to 15th place past Alvaro Garcia. Solov is going to put the 9th lap into the books. He's 4.9 seconds clear now, and he's had another fastest lap. Only very slight improvement on his previous lap, 1 minute 34.416, but he is almost 5 seconds clear now. Gael-Julian side-by-side action between the two Campos drivers. Goes very wide, comes back on track. I think that may have been Hugh Barter making an overtake on George Kelstrap. It is indeed. They're still side by side going around hairpin. They're going to be coming back downhill now, still side by side all the way. Who's late on the brakes? It is Kelstrap. He's going to move back in 7th. A bit wiggly there though at the exit of the corner, so Barter might have a chance now as they head into the final sector of the lap. Both of them look actually very squirmy. Probably got a lot of dust on their tyres because they're running so far wide in their battle. More warning flags for track limits. Cars 35, 25, 14 and 13. The pair still fighting each other as they come to the end of this lap, or the final few corners. Solov now 5.4 seconds clear of Gael-Julian. He's a tenth faster in the first sector, several tenths faster in the second. So really doing a strong job of this race. You know, he's won several races lights to flag so far this year, done a very good job on his transition to single-seater racing from karts. No doubt will be not just Fernando Alonso, but other people up the single-seater ladder with these kinds of performances. Here's a look at the gap between Filip Jenic and Manuel Espirito Santo. You know, he's got close on 2 laps, but he's dropped back a bit on the most recent lap, and I think that's because they're getting so close to Gael-Julian now that it's warming up their tyres a little bit, and they're also trying to think, do we need to manage our pace and kind of manage our positioning to attack later in the race? Kelstrap and Barter go side by side into turn 1. Barter's on the inside, takes 7th place. Kelstrap's gone fully wide, almost side by side contact with the wheels there. He's going to have the inside line still as Hugh Barter into turn 3. Stays ahead but runs his teammate wide, totally off the track. Tucks him back behind. He's going to have the slipstream though as they head downhill into the next section of this lap. A really dramatic performance there by these two. You know, it's more fun when the drivers do stay on track when they're fighting each other, but if they can keep it clean, and they do ride a little lock up there from Barter as he stays ahead. So that is for 7th place, and just behind them now is Max Meyer, 2nd in the rookie classification, a Formula de Campeones driver. Won his seat with the team through the shootout that they run at this track. There's kind of like a technical school element to it, and then a driving school shootout as well, and every year they've been doing that, providing drivers the opportunity to race in this series. In fact, Macho was one of those drivers who got an opportunity. Here's a replay of the move. So it goes way off track once, then does so again, but Bart on the inside gets the position. So I'm sure there may be a few frowning faces from some on how that move was completed, but it's an overtake nonetheless. Nicholas Solov now considerably ahead of everyone else. He's completed 11 laps, 6.496 seconds clear, now 6.5 seconds clear, 20 seconds to go, so we're going to have 2 more laps of this race. Another time penalty. Right, so we've now got 5-second time penalties for cars 28 and 26, and that is, looking down the order, Daniel Macho and Vladislav Ryabov fighting over 18th place. So I imagine they're doing the same as these Campos drivers and just running each other off track a bit. Then 2-second penalties for cars 26 and cars 35. Again, outside the points position, so it's not going to have an impact on championship standings. And that is Ryabov again. And 35 is Sebastian Graveland, who I think I've already mentioned had his penalty down in 25th. He's gained 2 places this race, but admittedly he did start at the very back. The driver who's made up the most spots is Daniel Macho on his first weekend back in single-seater racing. Doing a very good job is the young Spaniard. Solov still holds fastest lap up front. The Fernando Alonso protege doing a very strong performance here. And Campos Racing actually only entered Spanish F4 last year, I think, so adding to their roster of wins as well, bringing them up the chart of which teams have the most successes in this series. Gael-Julian in 2nd, Manuel Espirito Santo and Filip Jenic still separated by half a second. I don't think Filip Jenic is the type of driver who's going to, you know, go for a diving move late on because there's only 1 more lap to go, but he knows that 4th place will score him a handy amount of points. He's currently 6th in the standings, and he's ahead of several of the drivers he's contending for positions-wise in the championship battle. This race does score less points than the 25-minute races because of the shortened duration. So on to the final lap now. The two Campos drivers in 7th and 8th are still fighting. Hugh Barter back ahead of George Kelstrup. I think that is, or is that another Campos battle? No, that's the number 44 actually. So, sorry, that's Espirito Santo and Filip Jenic. My apologies. Gael Julian's in 2nd. Espirito Santo's closed in on him, but he's got Filip Jenic all over his rear. It was only a handful of seconds after I said Jenic wouldn't be trying for a move. Kirill Smál watching them from behind the dark red MP Motorsport car. Smál had been aiming for Formula Regional this year, but ended up back in F4, racing under the Kyrgyzstan flag as well, which is quite interesting. We've seen a few drivers around the world racing under different flags this year. In fact, in the American Rally Association, Michael Hooper was using the Lesotho flag last weekend, and his co-driver was entered as Bhutanese, which I've never seen before. Solov now 7.5 seconds clear. He was half a second faster than anyone else in qualifying, the only driver to break into the 1:34s, and again in this race. So he is set 12 laps in, 7 or 8 laps under the 1:35 bracket. No other driver has actually broken into the 1:34s yet. That's not only incredible consistency for his lap times, but also an incredible margin of difference as he weaves to the finish. So he's going to take a second win of the weekend in a row. The team are going to celebrate on the pit wall. In 2nd place, we expect to see Gael Julian. He finished 2nd on the road yesterday, but had a 2-second penalty. This time he keeps the position, finishes 7.9 seconds behind. Manuel Espirito Santo in 3rd, Filip Jenic in 4th, Kirill Smál, and we've had a timing error here. The checker flag doesn't seem to have been waved until the 10th car. Of course, we did actually see the checker flag waver there when Solov was coming across the line, but when it comes to GPS trackers, it looks like it's only picked up 10th place downwards. Now it's updated. So Solov confirms as a winner, 7.9 seconds clear of Gael Julian. Manuel Espirito Santo again on the podium from switching to Campos. So this looks like a really good move for him to change teams. Filip Jenic in 4th, Kirill Smál in 5th, Suleiman Zanfari in 6th, Hugh Barter in 7th. He's one of the title contenders. George Kelstrup in 8th, another Campos driver. Max Meyer in 9th, and Robert de Haan in 10th. Meyer is the 2nd of our rookie classification entrants, Solov being the 1st of those. And completing the rookie top 3 is Bruno Del Pino down in 12th place for DriveX. We had the top 18 cars or top 17 cars separated by 27 seconds at the end, which after 13 laps is quite close still. When you spend too long in the wake of another driver, it can really overheat the tyres. It can just make the car a little bit unbalanced as well. And often you then are more prone to mistakes when you're not concentrating on your own rhythm and you're concentrating on the car ahead, unless you're very clever and you almost try and drive the car ahead, which really, really talented drivers are able to do by positioning themselves in ways that makes the driver in front of them think in a different way to what they want to do with their car. So Solov is going to head into Parc Fermé. He's going to park up behind the number 1 board. There'll be 2 number 1 boards for him because he's not only the overall winner but the rookie classification winner as well. Julian will park up in 2nd place, Espirito Santo in 3rd. Now I think Gael Julian, it's his first podium of the season. He did finish 2nd on the road yesterday, but it got demoted to 4th by a time penalty. He's only had 3-point scores prior to today, so really strong and consistent performance by him to finish 2nd. Manuel Espirito Santo hadn't scored any points prior to joining Campos. He's now had a 2nd and a 3rd place back to back. That is 28 points I think he scored in the last 2 races. Which is very impressive stuff, and it's going to bring him into the top 10 in the standings as well, I think. Filip Jenic in 4th, he picks up 8 points. There's Solov celebrating. A celebration that I think is slightly inspired by one of Fernando Alonso's own from when he was winning in the World Endurance Championship and Formula 1. They're going to celebrate with the Campos crew. They were really excited to get on the podium yesterday for the first race of the weekend. Celebrations all round. 4th win in a row for Solov, 5th win in total. He's done it from lights to flag again. Utterly dominant performance, half a second faster than anyone else in qualifying. 7.9 seconds ahead of anyone in the race after 13 laps, which is around kind of like a 4/10, 5/10 margin per lap that he was bringing out. And our final race control notice, we've got more time penalties, cars number 8 and 55. So that's Valerio Renacella who was just outside the points in 13th place. And car number 8 is Alvaro Garcia in 16th. Drivers getting weighed now, making sure they reach the minimum weight requirements. A really important thing in this series. In testing, you can run underweight, but on a race weekend, you have to make sure you are to the letter abiding by the technical regulations. And hopefully in a moment as well, we're going to hear from our race winner, Nicholas Solov. We do have a post-race interview usually for the winner of the race, the Alpine Academy affiliate, A14 management member and Spanish Formula 4 points leader, who with 15 points from this race will now be on 138 up front. Timoteusz Karczek was in second place, 94 points. I think he'll still hold that position. Hugh Barter, third in the standings. There's our race results. I'll quickly run down those though. 13 laps, Nicholas Solov, 7.9 seconds ahead of Gail Julien, 8.6 ahead of Espirito Santo, who was under pressure all the way from Filip Janic. Kirill Smal in 5th. Bit of a glitch there. Zamfari 6th, Hugh Barter and Kelstrup fighting the two Campos drivers in 7th and 8th, Max Meyer in 9th for Formula de Campeones, and Monlau Motorsport, the technical school with the alliance with Van Amersfoort Racing, taking the final point in 10th. Infra Pruvazak 11th, Delpino 12th, Rinnicella, Karczek and Christian Ho, MP Motorsport Trio in 13th, 14th and 15th, Alvaro Garcia in 16th, Jeff McKeels in 17th, Max Arkangelski in 18th, Lola Lovenfoss, really close these drivers were, Anshul Gandhi, Daniel Macho, who had a penalty for track limits, Vladislav Ryabov, and then Daniel Nogales, Ricardo Gracia, our spinner Ricardo Escotto, and Sebastian Grabland. And we only had one non-finisher, that was Myron Pingasov, who we understand had a technical issue because he was wheeled into the garage by his team quite early on in this race. I'll go back to the point standings because we ran through the top two. Hugh Barter's going to pick up 2 points. He's now on 69, I think, third in the standings. Infra Pruvazak, 56. Suleiman Zamfari, he's going to pick up 4 points, so he will be on 52, but still 5th place in the championship. Although Filip Janic was on 46, he is going to pick up 8 points, so he'll be on 54. So he does go ahead of Zamfari into the top 5 in the standings. Here's the highlights of the race. So we had a really manic first lap. Ricardo Escotto, who was a spinner in the Cram Motorsport entry. Side-by-side action down the pit straight between Timoteusz Karczek and Daniel Nogales. And Karczek was trying to recover from a stall at the start of the race. Ryabov was fighting with Max Arkangelski. Then we had Hugh Barter and George Kelstrup really getting close to one another and almost running each other off track, as we see here multiple times as they fought for 7th position. 2 times in 3 corners almost. Avoided contact though, got to the finish and managed to score points. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, we had Nicholas Solov dominating for his 4th race win in a row, 7.9 seconds ahead of Gail Julien. Looking at the point standing is again, Julian's going to score. Oh, and we go quickly now down to the interview with our race winner, Nicholas Solov.
And you have managed to get you away until the end. What about that?
Yeah, I think today's race was much better than yesterday, honestly. The start was really good. Then I started pushing from the beginning instead of the end, and I managed to pull a gap and set the fastest lap, so I'm really happy about it.
What do you expect for the last race on P1 again?
No, the last race I'm starting second, unfortunately. My teammate is starting first.
Oh, it's true.
It was really close. I found a bit of traffic in quali, so it was difficult. But yeah, obviously it's going to be a more difficult race, the last one, but I'm still going to fight for it.
For the hot, maybe?
Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Solov there was referring to the second qualifying session which occurred this morning. That's going to set the grid for race 3 later today, the 25-minute race, and they were separated by 0.017 seconds with the 2 Campos drivers, Hugh Barter and Nicholas Solov. Barter starts on pole, Solov starts on second, and the start time for that race, and we'll just see it after the podium ceremony, is 13:45 British Summer Time and 14:45 European time for the Spaniards. So Solov takes another win, Gel Julian second, Espirito Santo third. We're going to have a little look at even more highlights of the race. A lot of drivers kicking up dust because track limits was once again an issue. Side-by-side action between drivers who made slow starts and had to recover places, but all the while, Nikola Solov in the Alpine Blue Campos Racing entry dominated the race, the only driver to lap in the 1 minute 34s in qualifying and in the race, winning by 7.9 seconds. Really frantic action behind though. Campos Racing drivers all fighting each other. Espirito Santo holding off Filip Janic for third, and Hugh Barter beating George Kelstrup to 7th place after a race-long battle between those two as well. Lots of action. We're going to see even more of it later, and we're about to see, of course, the podium ceremony. The top three will be brought out. There'll be 2 trophies for Solov because he is the rookie classification winner, and we'll also have a member of the team standing on top of the podium as well. Solov's now won 2 races here, and looking at the previous winners list, he's got 1 more to go to match Richard Verschoor, Franco Colapinto and Kaz Havercourt, who won all 3 races when Spanish F4 visited. Then Javier Gonzalez and Sebastian Ogard, also with 2-time winners on the weekends at the Spanish Formula 4 Championship, visited Valencia's Ricardo Tormos circuit. And of course, many of those drivers have now gone on to Formula 2, Formula 3, Euro Formula, Formula Regional. So there's a clear trajectory that if you do well in Spanish F4, you're very likely to do well in the series above. So the drivers have been summoned onto the podium. That's on the right-hand side, Espirito Santo in third, Gel Julian in second. Nikola Solov hops onto the top step to celebrate his race win, and a very happy Campos Racing employee getting to stand on the podium as well. Always special when those guys get to join in. And now will be the national anthem of Bulgaria. If they don't hand out the trophies first, they're going to do the trophies first. Spanish F4 trophies, not only do they have the number of where you've positioned, they also have the circuit layouts as well. So you'll never forget which race you finished third, second or first in. Incredibly helpful, particularly if you know, you've left your trophies at your parents' house and you need them to bring them out. Solov receives his overall winner's trophy. He'll then get another one which is red tinted to show that he was the top rookie as well. And the drivers, as long as they're 18, will get champagne. Otherwise they'll get a special bottle of sparkling, normally it's apple juice, to celebrate with as well. It looks like Solov hurt his hand there when he was picking up the 2 trophies. Now for the national anthem. Now the drivers get to have fun with the spray, or maybe they don't, because we've got to have the official photograph first. There's always a routine to podiums that some quite often forget because they're very enthusiastic to essentially spray each other entirely. Bulgaria on the top step, then we have France on the second step and Portugal on the third step of the podium. A very cosmopolitan lineup in this Spanish Formula 4 Championship. A little bit of difficulty for Solov to try and take the top off the bottle. Looks like Espirito Santo is the first to open it, and he's got it done. They're going to go and spray the Campos engineer first. Solov looked enthusiastic, but now he's run away. He's been chased around the back of the podium. We're having another race here, I think, between our top 2 to essentially spray each other. If you want to see more of that podium action and, of course, more race action, then we have race 3 of the weekend. It's a 25-minute race. Hugh Barter starts on pole after edging Solov by 0.017 seconds in qualifying, and that takes place at 13:45 British Summer Time and 14:45 European time later today. Here's the highlights of the race. We had a lot of action on lap 1, track limits as well, with drivers picking up dust as they went off track. Riccardo Escotto span down the order, but managed to recover with his race. We had several of the MP Motorsport drivers fighting. Timotej Karchik, after a stall, having to work hard to recover places. All the while, Nicholas Solov led from the front, an utterly dominant win by almost 8 seconds, as his Campos Racing teammates Manuel Espirito Santo, Filip Jelic fought for third behind. Here was a battle between Max Arkangelski and Vladislav Ryabov. We also had a big fight for 7th between Hugh Barter and George Kalstrup. They almost ran each other off track several times, but at the end they kept it clean, unlike race 1 of the weekends, and eventually finished 7th and 8th to pick up the final points on offer in this second race of the weekend. So signing off for race 2. It's been a pretty good morning. The track will probably be cooler when we get to our third race in the afternoon after very high track temperatures this morning, but it's going to be full of action. We've got 27 cars on track and what will be the 9th race of the 2022 Spanish Formula 4 season. Adios.